South Fayette is a Whippeal franchise team with state championship wins, a loyal fan base, and a strong, dedicated school pride. Although it may be a strong suburban public school today, South Fayette was not always this way, once being a small school in the country of western Pennsylvania. In the early days of South Fayette, boys could either only play football or soccer in the fall. The team would face local schools like Oakdale, Cecil, Bridgeville, North Fayette that have been relegated to being forgotten relics. The Lions would win Whippeal championships in 1936, beating Aspinwall 20-7, and went undefeated in 1964. As South Fayette grew, the school would install lights in 1980 so that the team would be able to play games at home on Friday nights instead of Saturday afternoons. The team would send tight end Jonathan Hayes to Iowa, who then would be drafted by the Chiefs in 1986 and end his playing career for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then becoming the Bengals' tight end coach. As the 90s went on, the team would become a force in the Ohio Valley Conference, rivaling Fort Cherry and Brentwood, and winning championships in 1995 and 1996.
Yeah, so when I started school here at South Fayette in the early 90s, they were consistently good every year. All right, playing. Now they were playing at a much lower level. They were single A. Fort Cherry was their main rival. So I particularly remember a game going out up Fort Cherry out in McDonald back in '96, and then beating them 33-6. And that was kind of used as a launching pad to eventually make it all the way to the Whippeals, the Final Four, which was a huge deal. Because they hadn't been that far, I believe, since the late 60s, when a guy named Bob Babish, he was quarterback and later the coach. And you can find all the details of that. And of course, we had those later championships that came with whenever Coach Rossi got here. But yeah, that was a big deal. Mr. Babish was their coach in those years. And then by the late 90s, early 2000s, the Japanese teacher, Jeff Matty, was the coach, but they were consistently good. They were always at the top of the conferences. You look at some of these books, they routinely had all conference players. You look at particularly 1995, they had almost 10 of them. I particularly remember kids like Brandon Davis. He was a small little running back, but man, he could scoot. He was fast. And that same team in 96 had Anthony Neely, who went on to play college. His dad actually played professionally. So, such a small school. We played Avonworth, and it was Farrell, that knocked us out in both 95 and 96. And that 96 game, particularly, I remember, it was up in Beaver County. And it went to overtime. It went down to each team got a chance at a two-pointer. And Farrell was able to execute theirs. And we lost 14-12 in South Fayette. That team was led by Mike Ignema, who was the quarterback. And, of course, you know the name Ignema. It's very, very well known in this area. But got a long history, long before I was here. And then we'll continue, hopefully, long after I'm here.
As the 2000s approached, South Fayette would grow from a single A school to being a double A school, and soon developing their stadium would become an urgent need for the district. After losing to South Park in October of 2003, the team would not play in South Fayette Stadium until the opening game of 2005 against Stowe Rocks, playing their home games in 2004 at neighboring Startiers Valley. The new stadium would be vital for the growing district with a 4,700-seat grandstand, a new concession stand, a few spectator bathrooms, a first aid station, along with creating 4 locker rooms and a coach and trainer's room. As the 2000s progressed, the team would generally maintain a winning record as they would face teams like St. LaSalle, South Park, and Quaker Valley, typically making it into the playoffs, but losing in the first round. In 2007, South Fayette would hire then Riverview coach Joe Rossi, who would play a pivotal role for South Fayette football for the next 17 years. The 2010 season would be a great result for the Lions football program. They would boast a 42.1 points per game average, which would turn quarterback Christian Brumbrow to be the Whippeal's all-time leading passer, and which lead South Fayette to shred Aliquippa at Heinz Field, defeating them once again and allowing them to win a Whippeal title for the first time in nearly 50 years. But even though they won in the Whippeals and would win in a playoff game, they would be thumped by Philadelphia private school West Catholic. Even with the success in 2010, some things would happen that would lead to it being overshadowed quickly by players and victories who would influence future generations of South Fayette football players. Enter Brett Brumbaugh and Justin Watson.
Playing on the 2013 South Fayette Lions football team was an honor. Two of the guys on the team, Justin Watson, Brett Brumbaugh, both well known, you've probably heard of them. Great athletes on the field, but even better leaders and people off the field, man. Brett Brumbaugh, I think at one point was an all-time leading passer. Not sure if he still holds the record in the Whippeal or the state, but he led by example. Every day at practice, making sure everyone from the freshmen up through the seniors, scout team players, were all included and felt like they were valued as part of the team. And then a guy like Justin Watson as well, his work ethic is undeniable. You see where that's gotten him. I think 3 Super Bowls, 1 Super Bowl lost this past season, unfortunately. But man, it was an honor to go against him every day as a scout team member of that team. I was a sophomore that year, didn't really get much playing time on varsity, but working against guys like Justin Watson and Brett Brumbaugh, who lifted everyone up on the team every single day, and knowing my role, it really made me a better player and made me thankful to be a part of the team with those guys.
They would go undefeated in 2013, beating the odds. They would face Beaver Falls and Aliquippa in the Whippeal playoffs as underdogs. And in the Whippeal title game at Heinz Field, the Lions overcame early turnovers and size disadvantage to defeat Aliquippa 34-28. They would face Philly Charter School and basketball powerhouse Imhotep Charter in the PIAA 2A playoffs. And while it was expected they would cross South Fayette, with a Philly news station predicting that South Fayette would lose 6-50, the Lions would write history by not only winning their first state title, but also garnering the largest margin of victory in a championship game in PIAA history by winning 41-0. This would repeat in 2014, where South Fayette would win a 2-peat, where they knocked off Aliquippa 31-22 in the Class AA championship, as quarterback Brett Brumbaugh and running back Hunter Hayes would shine, and best Scranton Area School District Dunmore 28-16 to claim its second straight PIAA Class 2A football title. However, 2014 would be Brumbaugh's final year, and there would be a void in the Lions' quarterback room. There would be a fight between Drew Saxton and Mikey Specca, with Saxton winning and Specca becoming a wide receiver. Saxton would initially continue the Lions' winning streak for 8 games, but it would all come to an end in the Whippeal Championship, where Aliquippa narrowly beat South Fayette and would kill South Fayette's 44-game winning streak. In 2016, the PIAA would expand the classifications and the Lions would move to 4A. In 2016, although the Lions went undefeated in the regular season, they would lose to Newcastle in the Whippeal quarterfinals, and a similar thing would occur in the following year against Montour. However, the Lions would win the Whippeals in 2018 against Thomas Jefferson in spite of having only 14 minutes of playing time. The Lions would move quickly to 5A in 2020. They would struggle in 5A with quarterback Nauman Almeida and wide receiver Charlie Rossi facing bigger schools like Upper Sinclair and Peters Townshend, and as a result would lose a 12-year playoff streak in 2021 and would only find solace in winning and forming a rivalry with neighboring school Chartiers Valley. They would, however, learn to adapt to their big powerhouse opponents, and in the 2024 season, they would go into a playoff game for the first time since 2019. And even though they lost to Penn Trafford, their future looks pretty promising. The Lions now have a new coach named Marty Spieler with broad new insights and ideas, a 3-star edge in Anthony Charles, several promising players like senior Tyson Wright and his freshman brother Aiden, who shine on the turf and in the weight room. Even though the Lions have modernized and expanded as a school and football program, the Lions still adhere to tradition and still maintain the pride, tradition, and excellence, just like previous generations of South Fayette football players and coaches.